Welcome to SSO Coaching 76. Today we actually have a special guest, Jon Cobb. I met Jon on LinkedIn. He has a coaching platform, and he has a very inspirational and interesting story that I wanted to actually share with all of you. So I'm going to, get rid of my voice and I'm going to let him take over. Jon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your story. I know you've told me in us talking back and forth via LinkedIn that you've gone from homeless to Harvard. So tell me about that story.
Yeah, so I think everybody hits kind of their own rock bottom at some point. And for me, it was leaving the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, got to serve on a scout sniper team, which was a great experience. And I went from being part of this really special team, somewhat elite team, and being surrounded by people that really supported me to being homeless, unemployed, and alone right after I got out. And it was such a shock. It felt like, just stepping off a cliff. I was completely by myself. I didn't know how to make it in the civilian world, as we call it. And I realized that there were a couple things that helped me be successful in the Marine Corps that would also help me in my new career, my new adventure. And one of those was building a team of people around me. And I was used to having a high functioning team that helped me be successful. And I realized that if I wanted to be successful in this new chapter of my life, I was going to have to find people that had done what I wanted to do, had kind of been there and done that, and could teach me the things that I didn't know, even the things that I didn't know I didn't know. And so I started to build this team. I started to find people that could help me. And I tried to learn all about the job search process, the career process, what it looks like to, do well in an interview and applications and network. And as I put these pieces together, I got better and better opportunities. And that led to me, working my way up from dead-end jobs and community colleges to ultimately going to Harvard. Sometimes I talk about going from homeless to Harvard, and that feels like a really big jump, but I actually went to 9 different universities along the way. So I went to, several different community colleges. I got my bachelor's degree at Vanguard. I did my MBA at Vanderbilt. And so I really kind of went up one step at a time. And it was the same work-wise. I worked for a few different companies, eventually ended up at Deloitte Consulting. And then after Harvard, I started my own company and landed my first contract with Microsoft because of the skills that I developed over time and because of the team that I had built that helped me be successful. And so now I help people build their team so that they can succeed.
That's absolutely awesome. But I have to ask. Okay, so usually, and unfortunately, I know a lot of military people, and there's a lot of military people, or a lot of military things that are on LinkedIn, and you always see, unfortunately, like people that get out of the military and they don't survive when they get out because of the fact that there is that drastic difference. And I mean, you literally were homeless. You went from having a full team and full support to having nothing and no one. How did you actually pull yourself out of that?
Yeah. So, I never slept under an underpass, but I lived out of my car for a while, and I couch surfed on the couches of friends who probably didn't even want me there, you know, um, just looking for stability and not knowing what it looked like, how to achieve that. So I think the biggest thing is realizing that what helped you succeed in the military is not necessarily what's going to help you in the next chapter of your life. And it's the same for anybody, whether you're getting out of school or you're going back into the career field that you left a few years ago before you had kids or something, or just pivoting in your career. You have to realize that you're going to have to do things a little bit differently. But whatever you learned in that last chapter was experience that you can take with you. You're just going to have to kind of change the way that you apply the principles that you learned a bit. And so being flexible in that way is one of the major keys to success that I think people need to really adopt. You got to be flexible.
Well, I would have to say, I would have to congratulate you on your mental toughness. I mean,
Thank
being
you.
able to survive something like that, knowing that you actually didn't actually have a home and you were, couch surfing with friends that potentially didn't want you there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little rough, and living out of your car. I can never claim that I've ever been homeless because I have never been homeless. I don't look good in cardboard. And I know that. So, I've always maintained a working life in that respect, but there's more out there and there's more struggle out there that I've never been, I guess you could say, exposed to in that respect, and be like a situation of couch surfing. I've always had a
Yeah.
roof over my head.
Yeah. And I think it's a blessing in a way, in a very serious way, because if you don't know what rock bottom looks like, then you're not going to be afraid of it, so to speak. You're not going to be as motivated. For me, I had everything stripped away and I had to ask myself what I really wanted. And I said, I don't want to live like this. I looked at the environment that I grew up in. My parents are amazing people, but we weren't wealthy, and of course, there's a lot more to life than money. But I wanted to give my kids more opportunities and a better experience. I didn't want to be working all the time, and so I created this clear vision of what it would be like for me to work less and be able to do more things with my kids and have more experiences with them. And having that clear vision really helped pull me and push me to find better things and to learn. And I just became curious about what I was capable of and what I could achieve if I really put my best effort in. So in a big way, hitting that rock bottom, so to speak, was a huge blessing.
Yeah. I usually go through my mental files, and I think people that in the past pissed me off because they're the ones that actually pushed me to to do what I do and to
Yeah.
get to the level I got to. So it's like you look back at the jerks in your life and you're like, thank you a lot.
Yeah, I learned a lot about leadership from the great leaders I had along the way, but also from the terrible leaders.
you know,
You say, man, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to treat people that way.
you know.
Uh, so you can learn from everything. It's all about the mindset that you have and how you approach it. But I was in Atlanta. Well, I've been in like 4 cities in the last 4 weeks. It's been crazy. Miami, Seattle, Milwaukee, Atlanta. So I've been all over. But I got to have dinner with a completely random group of strangers while I was in Miami. And each of them was talking about all of the kind of hardships that they had been through along the way. And these people had been through some terrible things. One of the people at my table sitting next to me, she was dead for several minutes. She was cold, when they found her. They actually didn't know, the paramedics didn't know how long she had been dead for when they found her. She had OD'd,
Oh
and
wow.
they were able to bring her back. And that was, I mean, talk about rock bottom, you know.
Well, yeah,
uh,
being dead is definitely rock bottom.
that's rock bottom for an unknown period of time. And so I asked them all, they had been through all kinds of stuff. I said, would you trade the hardships that you've been through for an easier life? And every single one of them said, absolutely not, because the things that they had faced made them kinder, made them stronger, and showed them how they could help other people. And so I thought that was beautiful for people to come out the other side. Of course, it's not fun while you're in the storm, but to realize I am so much better because I faced the challenges that I had along the way, and I reflected on them, and I grew because of that.
Yeah. People always talk about the calm before the storm, but they never
Mhm.
look at the after the storm. You survived, you know,
Yeah.
and you can make that difference. So, what were you doing in Atlanta?
So Atlanta, I got to be part of the Aspire Summit. Aspire is a great tour for entrepreneurs and business leaders. They're going all over the country. And Kevin Hart was there. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful was there. Sarah Blakely was there. Jesse Itzler, just like a bunch of awesome speakers, awesome business leaders. And I got to be on an entrepreneurship panel there. Um, on the first day. It was a 2-day event. And then I also had a dinner with some of my community from LinkedIn that got together. So again, just like having dinner with random people, building deeper relationships, A lot of people try to network with as many people as they can, and I'm all about building real relationships. So sitting down and having dinner with, 15 or so people that I never met in person before was really cool.
Yeah, I was doing a little stint with one of my connections on LinkedIn. She was wanting me basically to sell something,
Mhm.
and I'm just not a salesperson. I was born with operations in my blood, and I will die with operations in my blood. It's just the way I am. So I was never really good at trying to force people to buy some crap that they don't want to buy. But she's like, well, don't you want like 50,000 followers? And I'm like, no. My followers and my connections on LinkedIn are strategic and they're specific. They're within my niche, they're within my business, or they're people like you that I actually connect with your message. And that is who I'm connected with on LinkedIn. Yes, I have like 3,000. I'm happy with those 3,000. I don't
Yeah.
need 30. I mean, if I had 30,000 people in the transportation industry, yes, I would be happy, but they would all have something in common: transportation.
Yeah.
It's not just 30,000 random people on LinkedIn, so there's, like Ben Newman. I'm connected with Ben Newman. I'm, in his coachings. I actually am part of his coaching group, but
Mm.
it's like people like him and that type of story, or people like you and your type of story that I actually connect with as a coach. So
Yeah.
yes, there's going to be the transportation connections, there's going to be the coaching connections, and then there's going to be maybe one or three randoms in there, here, there, somewhere. But I'm not looking for the 30,000 followers. If I get them, organically, I'm good. But like you
Yeah, I'm
said, you
sure you're
need
going to
to
get
do
there.
it. You just need to do it the right way, though.
I'm sure you're going to get there, but quality over quantity, absolutely. My whole following is built around this idea that you can create a culture that you believe in where you work, where there are sincere leaders that care about their people. And we believe that you can get from wherever you are now, whatever challenges you're facing right now, to where you want to be if you build the right kind of team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my mission. I'm on a mission to empower leaders to find fulfillment and financial freedom by developing the types of teams and the culture that is really a win-win for people, to use a cliche term. But you're so right. It's got to be quality over quantity. So,
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted 30,000 people, I'm sure I could go through LinkedIn and click on everybody to connect. But if I don't want, if I don't feel that connection, I'm not going to reach out to connect with someone.
yeah.
And there are some people I won't even follow. I mean, they may follow me, but if I don't feel a connection with them, I'm not going to follow them because
Yeah.
I don't want to see their content in that respect. I mean, most of the people I'm connected with, I do follow because I want to be connected. There's
Mhm.
that point.
No, that's a great point. You mentioned sales, and I heard something really cool about sales earlier this week. A lot of people feel like when they sell something, they're a bad person because it feels dirty, like you're a used car salesman, and you're like trying to trick people into buying something. And this coach that I was speaking with said, instead of looking at it as you're a bad person for selling, think of it as helping people more, because you have something that can truly help the right person. You just have to find the right person. And think of it as selling as an opportunity to help somebody even more than you are with whatever free advice you're giving away. And I thought that was a really valuable way to look at it. And I try to use that now because I am, here I'm on talking to you. Everything I do is not about me, it's about what I believe in. And I am helping people build a better community and become better leaders, and ultimately like a better society because of the work I'm doing. And so that's why I advocate for the community I'm building, because it's not about me, it's about something bigger.
I went through your master class. I was on there. What was it, last week or the week before? On the writing the resume and the cover letter and everything like that. I actually learned a lot in that
Thank you.
hour. That was actually a really good webinar. I, I
Thank you.
I
I
took a
appreciate
lot
that.
of notes. I took a lot of notes. It was like, oh, that's what I've been doing wrong.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are fantastic at their job, but they don't realize that the skill set of getting hired is totally different than what you would actually do in the job. You could be the best computer engineer in the world or the best logistics manager, but getting the job, having the opportunity to prove that you can actually do it is very different. And you need to be a little bit of a salesperson, to go back to that concept,
Mm-hmm.
in order to get the job. You got to believe in yourself, project confidence, and follow a proven path. So I developed a 6-step job search process based on helping hundreds of people. It's called the Job Search Accelerator on my website, joncobbcoaching.com. And that walks people through how they should, think about their strategy before they just start applying left and right. Develop your stories before you write your resume. Have your resume ready before you start networking. Doing things in the right sequential order will save you a lot of pain and heartache down the road when apply for something without a referral and then you get rejected and you can't apply again for 6 months. And that was your dream company. Making sure you follow the right order is really important. And so I help a lot of people that are unfortunately in kind of a doom loop, as we call it, a negative cycle of applying randomly to as many places as possible, going back to quality over quantity. People apply to 500 companies hoping one of them will accidentally hire them, instead of
Yeah.
submitting a really high quality application, because the quality is what's going to win the opportunity for you, not the quantity.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like somebody like me, I'm very shy in the real world.
Yeah.
In like regular world, I'm very shy. I don't like to talk about myself. I'm not comfortable talking about myself in that respect. But you put me into a business situation, I will talk to anybody about anything in business. I have no problems. I don't care if you're the janitor or the CEO of a damn multi-billion-dollar corporation. I'm going to talk to you the exact same way because I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Awesome.
In that respect, I'm very forward and very confident in business. But I guess in life, I have imposter syndrome sometimes, to where I didn't even realize until about 2 years ago that I was actually the second female ever to run a marine division for a global container carrier. I had no idea that I was the only
Great.
female doing that now. It was actually pointed out to me by a colleague. They're like, don't you
Wow.
know who you are? Like, obviously not, you know? But yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things that you run through the mental files, and you're like, I am the only female running a marine division. But
Yeah.
I can tell you that there was an interview that it was like a it was I was doing an interview. It wasn't like a white paper. I was doing an interview for the Port of Long Beach. It wasn't an actual like job interview, but it was an interview about like the business and stuff like that, like what's going on in the business right now. And somebody asked me a question that pertained to that, and I made that comment, and I felt so awkward saying it out loud. I think that was the first time I actually said it out loud, that I
Mm.
was the only female and the second female ever to run a marine division. I'm getting more used to it. I say it more often now, so that I get more used to it. But it was just very awkward for me. So I like you said, quality over quantity. You got to get used to stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't advocate for yourself, who is going to? It's up to you. And I will tell you, most people are not shy about telling everyone what they've accomplished. So if you are the most shy person, you're the nicest to the most humble one, you're going to lose every time to the people who may deserve the opportunity less than you. And so in the context of looking for a job, getting hired, getting promoted, you have to help people understand what value you add. That's the whole point of the game. Show me how much value you could add to my team. And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose every time.
Yeah.
It's almost guaranteed. And I hate seeing good people who deserve the opportunity lose because they're being too humble.
I think I was way too humble for way too many years.
Mhm.
And that being pointed out to me about 2 years ago was that turning point. It was like, wait a second, I actually did that. I actually accomplished that. I actually beat all odds, that type of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, I can 100% agree with you on that. You have to
Yeah.
actually be comfortable talking about yourself.
100%. And let me go back to imposter syndrome real quick because you mentioned that. I have worked with executives at Microsoft and other Fortune 100 companies. I've worked with, all these multimillionaires coaching. the one thing that I've heard most consistently from all of these people that you would think are incredibly confident is that they all have imposter syndrome. And they are all pushing the boundaries of what anyone else has done before. It's rarefied air at that altitude. And so they're totally out of their comfort zone. They're doing things they've never done before because they're constantly growing. Of course, they've never done it before. They're getting promoted constantly. Um, so imposter syndrome is very common. And anytime you are leading or stretching yourself or growing, it's natural to feel that way. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you've never done it before.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's nice to know that multimillionaires and CEOs of like Microsoft and stuff are having imposter syndrome. It makes me feel a little bit better about
Everybody,
myself.
everybody. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with someone about how, sometimes I'm shy when I'm talking and I kind of shut down. And he said, I have never seen you look not confident. And that blew my mind because I know I had felt, not confident around him in several conversations. Um, and what I realized is when I feel shy and I shut down, I'm actually projecting confidence, even though I don't feel confident. So
You got the
it's just
face.
funny. But I assumed that people thought, I was looking shy, I guess. And that's not how people perceive me. So it's just funny how we get our assumptions wrong about, what people think of us.
Yeah. Yeah. There's unfortunately in the business world that can actually happen quite often to where you actually put on that false front without even knowing it. It's like a shield. So
Yeah. And you got to get that feedback. There are so many people that have one mistake they're making in their job search or one mistake they're making in the way they communicate at work that is preventing them from moving to that next level. And if they would just get the feedback, like everybody else knows, that guy talks too much or that guy, sits weird in his chair. You got to get the feedback from people in order to improve.
I got feedback one time. I was told that I talk too much, and that I over explain things.
Mhm.
And I guess it comes from years of talking to people that don't understand my business. So you have to over explain, or they get that like glazed over look and they're like potato chips, while you're trying to explain to them supply chain, and it doesn't really work. So, but I'm going to end this. I do believe I'm running out of time on my Zoom here. I need to upgrade.
No
Obviously,
problem.
it just told me I needed to upgrade. So
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. You gotta love it. I don't want to cut you short, and I want to actually
No
talk to
problem.
you again in the future if that's at all possible.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime. It was great to chat with you. If anybody wants to follow up, my email is help@joncobbcoaching.com, JON, and website is joncobbcoaching.com. And I'd love to have everybody join my community, my group coaching community called Elevate, and stay in touch. So thanks for having me.
Not a problem. And thanks, John, for doing this. I do
My
appreciate it.
pleasure.